Life above ground is often taken for granted. We go about our daily routines, enjoying the comforts of modern living, rarely stopping to think about the harsh realities faced by others in different parts of the world. The Atacama Desert in Chile is a tough place to live. This vast, arid expanse is one of the driest places on Earth, receiving less than an inch of rain each year. The landscape is stark and unforgiving, with temperatures that can soar to extreme highs during the day and plummet to freezing lows at night. The sun is scorching hot, and the air is dry and dusty. The ground is parched, cracked, and seemingly lifeless. Dust storms can whip through the desert, making the environment even more inhospitable. It's a place where survival is a constant challenge, and yet, life finds a way to persist. It's hard to believe anything can live there. The barren landscape stretches as far as the eye can see, with no signs of vegetation or water. Yet beneath this harsh exterior lies a hidden world of resilience and determination. But people do. They work in the copper mines, like the San José mine. These mines are the lifeblood of the region, providing employment and economic stability to the local communities. The miners who work here are a testament to human endurance and the will to survive against all odds. Every day, these brave men went deep underground, risking their lives to support their families. The work is grueling and dangerous, with long hours spent in the dark, cramped tunnels. The miners rely on each other for support and camaraderie, forming bonds that are as strong as the rock they extract. Life was tough, but they were close, like a family. They shared their hopes and dreams, their fears and frustrations. In the depths of the mine, they found solace in each other's company, knowing that they were not alone in their struggles. They shared stories and jokes in the dark mine. Laughter echoed through the tunnels, a brief respite from the harsh reality of their work. These moments of levity were precious, a reminder of the humanity that persisted even in the most challenging conditions. No one knew a disaster was about to happen. The miners went about their tasks, unaware of the impending danger. The mine, which had been their source of livelihood, was about to become a trap, a disaster that would test their courage and their will to survive. The collapse of the mine was sudden and catastrophic, trapping the miners deep underground. In the darkness and chaos, they had to rely on their training, their instincts, and each other to stay alive, a disaster that would grab the world's attention. News of the collapse spread quickly, drawing international media and sparking a massive rescue effort. The world watched and waited, hoping for a miracle that would bring the miners back to the surface. The mountain falls. It was a sight both terrifying and awe-inspiring as the once mighty structure crumbled under its own weight, sending a cascade of rocks and debris down its slopes. Nature's raw power was on full display, a reminder of the forces that shape our world. August 5, 2010, started like any other day at the San José mine. The miners, clad in their work gear, arrived early, ready to face another day of hard labor. The sun had just begun to rise, casting a golden hue over the rugged landscape. The air was filled with the sounds of machinery and the chatter of men preparing for their shift. The miners were busy drilling and blasting deep inside the mountain. They worked with precision and skill, their movements a well-rehearsed dance of man and machine. The air was thick with dust and the smell of earth. But the men were used to it. They had a job to do, and they did it with determination and grit. Suddenly, at 1 p.m., the earth shook with a loud roar. The ground trembled violently, and the walls of the mine seemed to close in. It was as if the mountain itself was angry, unleashing its fury on the men who dared to dig into its depths. The noise was deafening, a cacophony of crashing rocks and grinding metal. A huge piece of rock broke off, blocking the main exit. The miners were trapped, their way out sealed by tons of unyielding stone. The realization hit them hard, a wave of fear and uncertainty washing over the group. They were cut off from the world above, their fate now tied to the whims of the mountain. Panic spread among the 33 men trapped below. Their hearts raced, and their minds filled with thoughts of their families and the lives they might never return to. The darkness seemed to close in, amplifying their fear. They knew they had to stay calm, but the situation was dire, and hope was a fragile thing. They were stuck in total darkness, surrounded by dust and fear. The air was thick and hard to breathe, and every sound seemed to echo endlessly in the confined space. The men huddled together, seeking comfort in each other's presence. They knew they had to conserve their energy and resources, but the uncertainty was overwhelming. Their headlamps were the only light, making spooky shadows on the rough rock walls. The beams of light cut through the darkness, casting eerie shapes and shadows that danced on the walls. It was a surreal and haunting scene, the flickering lights a stark contrast to the oppressive blackness that surrounded them. They were trapped, with no way to talk to the outside world. Their radios and phones were useless, the signals unable to penetrate the thick layers of rock. They tried everything they could think of, but the silence was unbroken. They were alone, isolated in their underground prison, with only their thoughts and fears for company. 70 days of darkness. It sounds like a nightmare, but for these miners, it was a harsh reality. Trapped deep underground, they faced an ordeal that tested their endurance, spirit, and unity. The miners huddled together in a small emergency shelter. This cramped space, meant only for short-term refuge, became their home for over 2 months. The walls, cold and unyielding, seemed to close in on them as days turned into weeks. It wasn't built for weeks of survival. The air grew stale, and the lack of sunlight took a toll on their mental health. They had to find ways to keep their spirits up, even as the situation grew more dire. Food and water were running low. Their initial supplies dwindled quickly, forcing them to ration every morsel. The fear of starvation loomed large, adding to their already overwhelming stress. Hope faded with each passing hour. The darkness seemed eternal, and the silence was only broken by the occasional sound of dripping water or the faint echoes of their own voices. They shared their tiny bit of food, 2 small spoons of tuna and a tiny sip of milk every 2 days. This meager diet barely kept them alive, but it was all they had. They learned to savor every bite, knowing it might be their last. They drank water dripping from the mine walls, even though it tasted strange and metallic. This water, though unpalatable, was their lifeline. They collected it carefully, drop by drop, understanding its precious value. The days went by slowly in the dark. Time seemed to stretch endlessly, each minute feeling like an hour. They had no way to mark the passage of time, and the monotony was maddening, but they didn't give up. Despite the overwhelming odds, they clung to the hope of rescue. Their determination was a beacon in the darkness, guiding them through the toughest moments. They believed someone would find them. This belief was their anchor, keeping them grounded and focused. They imagined the moment of rescue, the light breaking through the darkness, and it gave them strength. They worked together, sharing jobs and helping each other. Each miner had a role to play, whether it was rationing food, collecting water, or keeping spirits high. Their cooperation was crucial for their survival. Their teamwork in this scary situation was their biggest strength. It was this unity, this unbreakable bond, that kept them going. Together they faced the darkness, and together they hoped to see the light again. Hope arrives on a drill bit. Above ground, everyone was working hard to rescue them. Engineers, drillers, and experts from all over the world came to help. It was a really hard job. The mine was dangerous, and the miners were trapped very deep. After many days of silence, finally, a breakthrough. A small drill bit made it through the rock, reaching the miners. The miners tied a note to the drill. It said, "Estamos bien en el refugio los 33. That means, we are well in the shelter, the 33. The world watched and waited as a special rescue capsule, called the Phoenix, was slowly lowered down the hole. It was a risky operation. The capsule had to go through a narrow, twisting path to get to the miners. One by one, the miners were pulled up to the surface. Every rescue brought cheers and happy tears from the families waiting above. The Chilean flag waved proudly as the world celebrated their amazing survival. Back to the light. After 69 long days underground, all 33 miners were safe. The world watched as they came out, pale and thin, but alive. Seeing them reunite with their families was very emotional. Their ordeal was finally over. They had survived against all the odds. A world united in hope. The miners' story touched the hearts of people everywhere. Millions followed their story, hoping they would be safe. The rescue showed the power of hope and how strong people can be. The world came together to celebrate the human spirit. The Phoenix Miners. These 33 ordinary men became heroes. They were called Lost 33 and the Phoenix Miners. They traveled the world, telling their amazing story. Their story reminded us about the power of hope, the importance of working together, and the strength of the human spirit. Lessons from the depths. The San José mine collapse was a tragedy, but it also showed us hope and resilience. It taught us that even in the darkest times we can overcome huge challenges. The miner's story reminds us to never give up hope, even when things are really tough. It shows us that we're stronger together, and it shows us that the human spirit is incredibly strong. The miner's story is a powerful example of what humans can do.